Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are joining us, and welcome one and all to another Thursday teissTalk, second one of 4 of February. So today we're going to be talking about the confidence gap, moving SMBs from reactive to proactive cybersecurity. So plenty of hopefully practical experience for those of you who consider yourselves part of the SMB community. Uh, Before that, a couple of notices. First of all, if you are joining us from LinkedIn Live, welcome. Welcome, but don't join us from there because you will not be able to ask a question, which is important, as you'll soon find out. Do join us. Go to teiss.co.uk/teisstalk, log in and join us from there. And there you will find around about here a little chat button, which is going to allow you to ask a question of our panel today. Why is that important? Well, regular listeners and viewers amongst you will know you can win a teissTalk mug, a much coveted teissTalk mug. Even most panelists don't have a teissTalk mug. I don't have mine with me today because I'm on the road again. But trust me, it's fantastic. It keeps your liquids hot and cold. How it knows the difference, I don't know, but it's still very good. Well worth a question to us that makes us laugh, cry, or just gets us thinking. So, with that in mind, and with you preparing your questions, I would like to invite onto the stage, please, Stephen, Ed, and Suvi. Stephen, welcome.
Hi there, Tom. Thank you.
And good to see you. Ed, welcome.
Thank you very much.
And Suvi, hello.
Hi.
And Suvi, we thank you for being our sponsor this week. Much appreciated for your contribution of tea and biscuits. It makes a massive difference to how much we enjoy this show. So, without further ado, let's move on to our news item, shall we? Quite an interesting one this way. It's from our friends at Bleeping Computer. Microsoft February 2026 patch Tuesday fixes 60 days and 58 flaws. The big the big so what to a certain extent, but with something like 55 vulnerabilities, six of which have already been exploited in the wild. There's a public disclosure of only three of those six. So effectively, three of these are 0 days. This is quite a big patch Tuesday this week, and actually, with that many vulnerabilities, that's quite a lot for anybody with even a smallish estate to stay on top of, isn't it?
It is. I'm actually starting to wonder. We have this talks already going on. That is this like 0 days becoming the main threat vector, kind of surpassing the identities soon? Because at least it kind of sounds like it, and those are so huge risks these days. So it's kind of interesting to start following these and how they are being exploited.
Yeah,
I think it's particularly an issue for the sort of organizations we're talking about today, for our
Mm.
small and medium businesses. I mean, we've got the situation, there's quite a diversity of different vulnerabilities being highlighted by the things that are being patched across different operating system elements, different applications, and various things that are targeting the end user community. So, in no sense, something that an organization or organization in general could look at and think, well, none of that matters to me. There's something in it for everyone potentially, which is not great.
yes, it's a veritable smorgasbord of applications and OSs that can be attacked. Some of it are guaranteed to be used by even some of the smallest of organizations. Sorry, Ed, you
And
were
it,
going to say
yeah,
something.
it's the never-ending resource problem of this is this is interesting for a big company where cool we've got an IT department of thousands who will jump on this instantly and we have a process. But if you've got 20 blokes making widgets in a shed somewhere, do they even have an IT guy? And of course, it's not just their stuff. They're probably outsourcing a lot of IT, so they don't have the capability to supervise the vendors or the IT shop down the road that looks after their servers for them. So it's wonderful.
Mm.
We're patching and updating these things and disclosing them, but if you don't have the process and the technology and the capabilities around it, it's a bit terrifying.
Yeah.
It
And
is, and these CVs. Sorry, these are actually about Microsoft. I mean, companies are using these. These are very, very drastic things like escalation of privileges. Like if you pass that and you start exploiting that, then you basically have all the power. And it's not something that wouldn't be used by many companies. So it's quite severe. So we
And
need to help
it's
the small
yeah.
companies.
And of course, there's also the risk that we've always had of people will go, oh, I'll just run Windows Update, da da da, everything's fixed. And no, it's not. You actually need to, make sure the patches are there. You probably have to reboot stuff. It's not as simple as, oh, I've got Windows Update turned on, it's all fine.
some of them
And
are recursive. You have to
yeah,
apply one in order to apply the next one, and so on.
it is. And then it gets, oh, we haven't patched for 6 months. That's somebody's, doing something for a month. And of course, this isn't actually unique. It's called Patch Tuesday because it happens on a Tuesday.
Well,
So we get it a lot.
We were talking about just this before we came on about how the application we're using to broadcast. As soon as I hit join, it said, "Sorry, you have to update your application," and it becomes a barrier for many people. It becomes because it actually gets in the way of doing the job. It actually becomes a bad thing. Patching is not seen as by the general population as a good thing, something that is of benefit to them. It is something that gets in the way of them doing their job, and so therefore they'll jump through all the hoops to avoid doing so.
And I think that association can find itself there for security more generally. I mean, if you're being told that security needs you to install a patch, then, well, that security thing, security is not helping me as a general point, could be part of the perception that gets formed. So again, not a very good news story in that wider context.
But there is something good in the forcing the updates. So it's exceptionally annoying, and I hate that. Last night I needed to get a taxi. It was raining, and the wretched taxi app had gone, oh, I've updated everything and logged you out. And oh God, I'm standing in the rain. How do I do this? But it's horrible, but it's better than we're going to ask you to patch, but we're just going to ignore it for 2 years.
We're automating so many things. So, I mean, wouldn't you think that certain patches you can just automate and have
in the
it
background?
Yeah.
And I mean, with all the AI, you'd sort of hope there was some ability to detect the context in which the application is trying to do its update. I mean, so Tom, your situation really could never really occur because you're about to try and use the thing. You've elected to load up for a reason.
It's in my calendar, and it's shown that the hour before was free. Why would it not update at that point in the background? But Suvi, I want to pick up on something you mentioned about 0 days and the fact that there are a number, only 3 of the vulnerabilities that were exploited in the wild have been publicly disclosed, which effectively means 3 of them are brand new. This whole, the 0 day thing is becoming very problematic. I mean, research I've seen that it takes, from the moment that a vulnerability is discovered, it takes mere hours before it can be exploited in the wild.
Yeah. First of all, you can, as an attacker, you can discover those in minutes, in seconds, in minutes. You can scan the whole internet and look for the vulnerabilities. So everything is so much faster, and the attackers have all the tooling they need to act fast and utilize and exploit these vulnerabilities. And they're kind of like watching over, like, when is the next one there, and they can exploit under 24 hours. So it's all about the speed. But okay, then we need to have also the defender part needs to be fast, right? And having the capability. So what are those kind of pre-0 day actions to take? And that's where it gets interesting. And if we are only in the reactive side of security controls, we don't have the ammunition against these 0 day vulnerabilities. So we need to have other type of visibility to our environments and see how the attacker sees it. So once they use the CVE, what are their next actions in that company?
Yeah.
So this is the kind of new mindset we need to have.
I loved your point about scanning the whole internet, because there's this bizarre myth that we as an industry have created, that it's all sneaky and targeted, and they're going, and you end up with clients and customers going, I'm not a bank, or there's only 20 of us here, there's nothing to, and you have to explain and show them showdown going, cool, I've got a thing that works with the particular technology you've got. I'm just going to scan the whole internet for that one version of an operating system, and it's done. So I'm targeting the vulnerability, not what you do as a business.
I've seen research about how honeypots were created, sort of see, how often, how hard they might be attacked, etc. And in more than one case, it took less than 3 seconds for a honeypot to go online and to then be aggressively scanned, i.e., by someone trying to, check the front door effectively, not just some kind of standard, internet traffic, but aggressively scanned. 3 seconds.
And yet we still see, anytime anyone commissions a pen test, we still see the default enabled. We still, in the old days when I was a pen tester, I think every single test I did, there was a default, the password's password. The password is the one written on the box. We still see that, despite the fact we know people will find it within seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think there's still many cases where people don't know any different, and perhaps that relates to some of the concepts we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
In the large organizations, perhaps there's no excuse for those sort of sites, but in other cases where they're just deploying technology out of the box and they did their best just to get it running, then you've not got that insight that's going to help guide you to where you ought to be.
Yeah.
So isn't the security playbook actually, they are made for large companies?
Yeah,
like
they are.
The zero trust and these programs, which are wonderful, but they are made for large companies. That was made for Google, right? So what about the small companies? Like, they don't have all these teams to set up the culture and program and tooling and resourcing and put enough budget and everything, and they need something more scalable and still effective, and really kind of tapping to those priorities that are important for that company. So
absolutely. Well, I think that brings us very neatly to the panel proper. So moving SMBs from reactive to proactive cybersecurity. We do have a poll. I think it's going to be somewhat unscientific, given we don't know exactly who in the audience actually works for an SMB or not, or for a large enterprise. But if we could pop the poll up, and I think from memory it says, do you think your company would survive a cyber attack? We've deliberately kept it simple because actually it's addressing a broader issue of, hey, a simple cyber attack, do we have the wherewithal as potentially an SMB to actually survive this? So while that's going on, we'll leave that for just a couple of minutes. So let's look at this underlying problem here, which is, why are fundamental security best practices often overlooked by small to medium businesses? Is it simply resources?
It is. It's why it's viewed as a tax. It's viewed as, I have to spend this money on something that is perceived as not bringing me any value. It's not adding anything to my organization. It's like car insurance. We all pay it because we sort of understood, but I resent the hell out of it. And
it's a legal requirement.
It's illegal. Well, there's that. But I should be allowed one accident a year. And that's the conversation we need to flip over. We need to go, yes, it will stop bad things happening, but it enables you to take risk. It enables you to expand your business. It enables you to reassure your buyers. It enables you to sell the company for more money when you're, selling out. And I think that's the problem, is we view it as protecting you from a bad thing that might or might not happen. Whereas we need to turn it into, this enables the business, this drives you forward.
I think that's one aspect of it, the resourcing it and wanting to, or maybe avoid it. I think another potential thing is that, Tom, you mentioned ignoring best practices. one question would be, well, what are the best practices? And I think one of the challenges for an SMB, if you go and look for SMB cybersecurity good practice, do it as a web search, you will get a variety of different answers that point you towards a range of different things in a range of different levels of detail about what good looks like. So the messaging is very mixed around it, which in itself represents, well, what should I be doing?
And
which
different
bits of this
industries.
are more important?
Yeah, different industries and different countries and different, all that.
Yeah, and even some of the people who publish it. So there's brilliant guidance that comes out of NCSC, but frankly, if I was making widgets in a shed, I'd be terrified to look at the website related to NCSC and GCHQ. I'd be, oh my God, I'll end up on a list. It's it had you, and of course, as the cyber industry, we've sort of brought this on ourselves because everything has been, we're going to scare you and sell you a magical whizzy box that solves every one of your problems and costs more than your company made.
But fear, uncertainty, and doubt is
couldn't agree more. And I'm representing a vendor here, but I feel for the SMBs. They are being bombarded by all kinds of vendors with all their one point solutions, and this is now what you need to do right away. And how would you then know? I mean, some of those sound probably like easy quick fixes for your company, but how do you know what is enough for you and what is enough as a kind of essential security level for now for those new types of threats?
Yeah.
So that's the question.
So talking of FUD, let's see what the poll has come back with. Hopefully, we've got some contributions. Either that or people are too afraid to click on a link, which may take them something. So is the poll coming back up? Let's see. It's kind of 50-50, really. It's a toss of a coin as to if your organization will survive. That's quite interesting.
And you wonder if they were reporting to their management, would they be so confident? Because it'd be a very brave person who would go, yes, absolutely, we will survive. I don't know any CISO who would put that in writing.
I've said it once on this show. In fact, if I've said it once, I've said it probably every show. CISO stands for career is so over, right? And it's very much you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. In that sense, not that an SMB necessarily has a CISO, but there's going to have someone whose job it is, perhaps the person who owns the shed that the widgets are being made in. But nonetheless, you're right. It's a brave person who's going to come and say we're okay.
But I think it also depends on what our response had in mind when they answered the question. So, I mean, we framed it there as, would you survive a cyber attack? Well, a cyber attack of what type?
And what severity and what,
And what time of the day?
Yeah.
It's happening.
3 a.m. on a Sunday morning, we're screwed.
It's also the assumption. So when I go in and you have the conversation with big companies and investors and of course, we've got backups, we've got resilience centers, we spent millions on another data center. And then you go, have you actually ever tested a full backup? Have you ever actually taken that out of circulation and done a full restore? And the answer you always get is, oh, Bob deleted a file by accident. We managed to get it back. So that's the same thing. And, I always go back to in my early career, I had to help a client with an incident and their backups didn't work, but they took them religiously. And it turned out they were storing them in a plastic box on top of the microwave. And they were magnetic tapes. And it took a while to explain, but cool, you're backing them up, but they just don't work.
My favorite story of a similar nature is, a company was taking backups on tapes, kids, ask your parents, as to, all that sort of stuff. And the IT person was taking them home. He had a company issued fire safe and it was felt it was the right place to do. And he sat in the same place on the underground train every single morning when he went home, etc. But that was right above the electric motor that he put his bag on top of. So we went to test them after however many years, and every single one had been wiped.
It's such a wonderful example of testing it costs you virtually nothing. So especially as a small company going, do you know what? Once a month, we're going to restore from backups the complete SharePoint or the two critical servers. and it'll take a couple of hours whilst Bob goes and makes a cup of tea and reads the newspaper.
Yeah,
that's a better investment than, we're going to buy you cloud backups that store it in 30 locations.
Yeah.
Also, a very relevant question is that, do you actually know your digital attack surface? So do these companies actually know? Because these are oftentimes also growing companies, so they are in a growth mode, hopefully so, very much so, and might kind of bring your own devices and have some shadow IT here and there, and just started a cloud service somewhere, and so do you actually know everything? You might think that you have everything in place when something hits, but that's an interesting question. Like, are you prepared? How are you prepared?
And
so it's good that many say they are confident and have the controls. That's a very good thing in a way to start. But then again, you can actually make sure that you are prepared better, and you understand and you have the full visibility.
But realizing also that it's a moving situation. So okay, as you're scaling up and as you're setting out the outset, you might well have an idea or some sense of what your attack surface is and what you need to be considering. But as you're growing, that all changes. And is your security that you set up originally, which was potentially fit for purpose, still fit for purpose? And that recognizing, as I guess we all know, that it's a never-ending journey, so to speak.
Yeah. We've got a wonderful question from Jason, or a comment, which I think is perfect. It's exactly the same risk as you might have a flood or a fire that can wipe you out and plan. And that's one of the problems, that we view cyber as the strange people who live in the corner and eat pizzas in hoodies, and
which is true.
Yeah, well,
thank you.
But it's an existential risk of
it is compared physical, to a fire risk, because we recognise that as something that might happen at home. We have house insurance. We have
we prepare. Insurance. We have those safety blankets, whatever.
Exactly. But it's such a perfect analogy, because nobody thinks it's strange that we have a fire rehearsal in every company, that once a quarter we go and stand in the rain, and then we all go down the pub instead of going back in the office. But we don't do that for cyber. It's just not viewed as normal.
No. Legal requirement again, though. I think we might have the answer to some of this. So I want to come back to this, this exposure surface, or the digital exposure surface, or the attack surface. It is very difficult, especially as so much is going to the cloud. So much is going into, as we used to say 10 years ago, someone else's computer. It's very difficult to keep track. In fact, I would say in many cases, it may not be on purpose, but, it's deliberately kept behind the veil. Like, you don't need to know where this is sitting. You don't need to know what environment it's sitting on, or what format, or what country it's sitting in, because, there's also, privacy laws that we need to observe, and all that sort of thing about where your personal data sits. So it's hardly surprising, really, that we struggle to understand our surface when the cloud vendors themselves, and I'm being deliberately stereotypical, are not sharing this information with us. If you go and sign up to, say, Microsoft E3 as a small vendor, I did this myself 5 years ago. I had no idea where my data was sitting initially. I had to go and dig.
Yeah, and they're not going to, even really big customers cannot, turn up at Microsoft and go, "Hey, I'm here to do an audit." They will get laughed out of the building. And of course, it's actually a chain, because small and medium companies, they don't go direct to the big cloud vendors. They go to their mate down the road who does techie stuff, who goes to So a really common one is, my funky marketing website. The marketing people don't know where it's hosted, because they've gone to a hosting company who's gone to a hosting company it's somewhere. So it's ridiculous expecting them to do vendor management that we'd want them to do in a big, you have to presume you don't know. You have to sort of, zero trust sounds expensive, but I think as a principle of going, we just presume everything is compromised, is the way to go.
Exactly. The mindset about it, and just to start with that kind of culture in a company is super important. How you do it, then there are many ways. And sort of like we should have this mentality that we all the time scan, whether it's our devices or unmanaged devices or cloud configurations or any kind of, we all the time have some sort of a automatic scanning in place, because we simply cannot like run those super tests all the time. We should still test, actually, but we should have something more scalable that works.
And I think the point about legislation and legal requirements might be an approach of going for, we almost need a kite marker going secure for SMBs, where, I don't have to go and audit them. They are held up to a standard. But of course, you come back to Stephen's point of, well, which standard? Because there's thousands of the damn things.
And also, how do you hold people accountable to, if it's the SMB themselves, how do you hold them accountable to something they don't have the in-house knowledge to deal with and necessarily the resource to buy?
So it's got to be there's a centralized body, somebody is issuing certificates to the providers, and you go, cool, if you buy your IT from Kitemark's companies, that's fine. But again, you still end up with fraud, for example, the number of sort of fake boiler fitters,
the fake kite mark, as it were. But we kind of have it. I mean, I think the NCSC released, Cyber Essentials a number of years ago. What was it? 7 years ago, 8 years ago, something like that. I can't remember. Which I always described as ISO 27001 light. Based on it, but it was also very practical. I also implemented it many years ago as well for smaller companies, and it is very, and I'm not suggesting this is the only one, as Stephen is going to attest to, but it is very practical. It's very focused on small to medium businesses, because it's aimed at the individuals and the fact that we work remotely and all that sort of thing. So there is guidance out there, but is it being pushed enough by the NCSC, for instance, or the government, or is it just being lost in the noise? Because implementing it, you don't even have to certify. You actually self-certify yourself when you're basically.
But even there's not enough awareness that it even exists. I mean, if you look at something like the Cybersecurity Breaches Survey, which gets released annually by DCIT, and look at the extent to which the respondents in that, many of whom are, in fact, the majority are small and medium enterprises, it's really low. There's about I think 12% or something are aware of Cyber Essentials as some, and even fewer actually have got it.
That's terrible.
And the implementation of it is also, I agree, as a basic standard of, you should have a lock on the door. Totally makes sense. But there are people who, because of the self-certification for the lower one, just go, okay, Bob told me it's fine. Sign that. And there are equally consultancies that are doing an appalling job, who are just sending out, somebody who's just graduated, and it's super cheap, and they don't really check. So I think it's a starting point, but we do need, I think we need it pushing more. And I will say the thing that really helped was, if you do business with the government, you must have Cyber Essentials. And then, of course, everyone who had to do that did it to their suppliers, who did it to their suppliers. So that really helped.
And
it starts like a positive cycle. Yeah.
So
we actually see it already with our customers who are saying that they are being asked to tick the boxes already. So if these small companies try to sell their products to some bigger companies, like usually they are the supplier for something bigger, there is a requirement already, certain cybersecurity requirements that they need to tick the box, that they understand their environment and vulnerabilities and have 24/7 monitoring. So that starts to be quite a big requirement for small companies already.
It's still a self-declaration. It's still a tick in the box, right?
Yeah, you can still claim like, we have it.
But it's a starting point. So, Stephen, you were going to say something earlier as well.
Yes, I mean, you've got Cyber Essentials, which is we've assessed ourselves and somebody else has verified it. You've got Cyber Essentials Plus, where there's the independent assessment actually testing the systems. And there is a known sort of difference between, okay, an organization's achieved cyber essentials, but then they've not managed to get cyber essentials plus when somebody's come in and looked at it more substantially. But even there, it's helping to raise the bar to some degree in terms of awareness. And as Suvi was saying, other organisations looking for folks in their supply chain, for example, to have it. It's moving us along, turning the dial slowly. But I mean, Cyber Essentials has been around since 2014, and so the
12 years. Okay.
the extent to which it's been taken up thus far is perhaps less than maybe NCSC and the government might have hoped.
I think there's also something I am conscious of, sort of self-criticism is there's a degree of snobbery in, especially in the cyber advisory and consultancy thing of, I'll look at that going, cool, you've got Cyber Essentials, not of interest, not good enough for me. But of course, I'm used to dealing with people who have got, we've got a cyber team of 1,000. And I think it really makes sense to go, I'd rather you had a really simple thing, but done properly and implemented than you try, please don't go out and hire somebody who calls themselves a CISO when there are 10 people in the shed, because they're not going to be a CISO. They're just after the job title.
Crikey, this business has gone down. It was 20 a few minutes ago.
They had an incident.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Sorry, gents. Sorry, folks. We've got to let you go. In the last 9 minutes or so, let's start talking about what are the actual practical things that people can do. What are the simple things that we can do? I know we mentioned things like zero trust is a good idea. Well, that's great, but it's quite a hill to climb for those 5 people in the shed, because they've had a lot of layoffs recently. But things like that are quite a hill to climb for some people. Although that being said, if you're a brand new business, if you're a brand new startup, you're probably in the best position to implement that kind of thing because you have no legacy anything, right? But where do we start with the basics?
I think what is important, and I don't mean that in a sort of sarcastic way of going, what processes do you have in your business? Forget the technology. What are the really important ones that make you money or keep you alive? What do we need for that? Protect that. So it doesn't matter if the photocopier isn't working. It doesn't matter if the coffee machine isn't working. But do you know what? If we cannot email out invoices, we're screwed. And as a small company, if we can't invoice for a week, we've got no cash flow.
Yeah.
And then you start deciding, okay, we protect those. And I think it's then going out and finding a provider, because it's unreasonable. I'd love to say, build it yourself, do it cheap, open source, but it's just unreasonable.
Or a manual alternative, of course.
Yes. Find a provider who will give you we can manage your email securely for you. We've got these certifications. We have a contractual level. And that's where you might need some advice. But it's unreasonable to expect internal small companies to have, a network engineer and a cyber engineer and a, continuity analyst.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think there's
I would very much follow Ed's practical advice as well. Like, understand first what you have, and on top of those, like, critical assets and processes, your business model basically, and then also who are the key people, who are the admins, and the admins always, like, do they have the controls in a good way, and having that kind of taking those attacker lenses on, right? So you need to look at your company, how they would look at it. So, yeah.
I think there's also an element of needing to understand what going back to that issue from right at the start, what does cybersecurity for our organization actually mean? And okay, you're not necessarily going to be able to do it yourself, but you need to understand at least the scope of the problem. And so taking a look at something like the NCSC Small Business Guide on it would explain it in at least a broad terms to enable them to then have a discussion with somebody else about, well, what service do I need you to provide for me? If I just go into somebody and say, I want you to do cybersecurity for me, well, they could sell me whatever they think is
whatever silver
in
bullet
my budget that I'll pay for. If I know something about, well, these are the things I want to hear in the answer. I've got at least some awareness. I mean, we've got examples in the chat about cars and things. I mean, when you go and buy a car, not everybody is a car mechanic to know the details of how it works.
Yeah.
You know as features of the car that you want to buy.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I always like that sometimes the solution to this is totally not technology. So I did work for somebody where they were worried, they realized they were really vulnerable to disruption, and they made foodstuffs. And we just had the conversation going, this stuff is shelf stable for 2 years. You've got a half empty warehouse. If you just work overtime for a few months, you've got 6 months worth of supply in the warehouse. You can, you could rebuild the computers and everything quietly.
you could go out to Curry's and buy a brand new set of stuff and start from fresh and be up and running again. Yeah.
And do you know what? If you just have backups you could get at, so you could go, oh, who do we need to deliver it to? Your bloke in a van can deliver it.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's not the technology solution. Sometimes it's just, dare I say, a bit of common sense.
Yeah, I'm still happy to see that also as the attackers are using the AI, also the good guys are using it. And there will be those types of tooling that help also the small and mid-sized companies. And there are already some where you can actually just scan all the time and get the prioritized remediations that you need to do. Then when you don't know what to do, there is an AI agent helping you to understand, look at these assets, correct this one, there's a configuration mistake here, do this. It will be different after a while when we start getting these good solutions for the smaller companies as well.
One of the things that fills me with pride a bit about the cyber community is we share without competition rather well. So societies and associations, your industry body, nobody views it now as a competitive reason not to share. So when you get industries together going, let's link this up together, let's share how did I as the association of beekeepers provide cyber insurance, or manage cyber, because of course they're in your business, they understand what matters, and you also start to find suppliers that are useful. So instead of you having to vet this supplier, if 15 of your competitors are using it, that's a useful sign.
Yep, very much so. Stephen, so you just dropped into it says host and panelists, can't post to everyone. Perhaps one of the backstage teissTalks can deal with this.
But there's now on our behalf.
It's been done, has it? Fantastic. Thank you, teissTalk. So yes, there's a link there which I think provides very practical advice. Stephen, do you want to just talk through that?
Yeah, so this is related to a project that we've got ongoing. We've had going for a couple of years to get to this point, for something called Cybersecurity Communities of Support. And what we're piloting at the moment is bringing together SMEs along with volunteer cybersecurity experts as advisors, to put them into small groups where the SMEs can basically socialize their cybersecurity issues and concerns and get advice in a, let's say, a less formalized context where it feels friendlier, and it's not a commercial thing, it's not selling, but it's trying to make cybersecurity more accessible to the community that essentially needs it, but without replacing anything that's already there. So it's not an alternative to using other sources, but if for example you've gone and read some cybersecurity guidance and then you want to have some sense of, well, how do you interpret it, how do you enact it, here's a community that you could join and talk.
So it helps signpost to the correct guidance, etc. And also what I like about this is the concept of it takes a village, right? It takes a community to help raise the bar for everybody here, which I think makes a huge amount of sense.
And I think I love that so much, because I've certainly, as I think everyone else in the community, has seen missold advice, missold technology. I always remember going to see a client who had been sold PCI consultancy and they didn't take credit cards. And it was just wow. And people selling, I've seen people selling, state-of-the-art hardware encryption modules, and you're going, why? You
For
don't
what?
need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's an interesting comment from Jason as well. Jason Coleman, opening paragraph of my IT BCP. Internal departments must have procedures in place to operate for extended periods while the IT systems are restored. That sounds a little bit like that's a you problem, folks, not a me problem.
Well, of course, the individual departments know the process and the operations better than the cyber
better than IT or security.
And it's a sort of, it's a diplomatic event of, cool, we can help you with this, but you know how to put the stuff on the pallets and do the stuff.
Security is the whole company issue. I mean, it should not just be that one guy who has the 6 hats on top of him. And
very true.
But I would say the question I always ask when I see that is, these plans, are they on the computers?
Yeah,
Has anyone printed them out?
On which note, let's draw to a close. I'm going to go around and ask all three of you the same question, and the same one I ask every week, which is, what should our audience do when they get to their desks tomorrow morning, or their sheds for that matter? What should they do? What piece of singular practical advice would you give? Ed, I'm going to start with you.
Work out how this can be a commercial advantage. Work out why this will get you customers and business and investment, because that makes the conversation so much easier.
Nice. Stephen?
Yeah, so I'll still go back to understanding the scope of the problem. I mean, it's a practical reality that you need to accept, that you need to know what the picture is for you. What are you protecting? Why does it matter? How do you need to go about it?
Excellent. And Suvi?
I would say also, like, start small and start right away, and do even some test scannings with somebody and see if you can find something you never knew. And kind of that gets you in the mode of actually understanding what you have and what needs to be prioritized first. So I would start with that. I actually have something I can post in the chat.
Please do.
A couple of links how people can check the maturity that they have, sort of tests that they can also run.
Nice.
The other one is also like a security checklist that they can have. This what Stephen mentioned, that everybody should learn a little bit of that car mechanics, at least a little bit, so you understand what you're talking about.
No, very good. We do like the practical side of things here. It does. Well, I mean, let's face it, we are supposed to be here helping people, right?
Absolutely.
Excellent, folks. Thank you.
We all started from garage, I think.
Well, HP did, didn't they? HP started in a garage, 2 people. So from small things and sheds and garages. Folks, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. I have 2 things to do before we close. Firstly, to award a mug, and I think actually it's going to go to Jason Coleman. Jason made an early bid and even supported his application with a second comment / question. So nice one, Jason. Someone will be in touch to ship you your mug. Secondly, we have another episode next week on the 19th of February, building a trusted security model for generative and agentic AI, which means we already break my rule of £1 fine for the first mention of AI, which, Suvi, you owe us £1. So just to make note, we'll add it to your invoice. So again, if I could just say, Ed, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Stephen, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
And to our lovely sponsors, Suvi, thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks.
And to everybody at home, stay secure, my friends.